Sir, I rise to speak on the Finance Bill 2019 to continue the existing rates of income tax for the financial year and to provide for certain relief to taxpayers. Sir, I speak so with a heavy heart because Bengali laborers are being killed in Assam. Two laborers by name Sheikh Idris and Muhammad Jauhar were killed in Assam, Dumduma area on Saturday. I tried to raise it earlier, but since the Deputy Speaker did not allow me, I am mentioning this, that more you press with the Citizenship Amendment Bill, more attacks will take place on Bengali laborers. I strongly protest this. Sir, I will not speak on the expenditure side today because I had the opportunity to make a speech yesterday. I have spoken on how defense budget of 3 lakh crores is inadequate. I will not speak on how budget for inland water transport has been cut, civil aviation has been cut, shipping has been cut. I shall not speak on how NREGA has been cut by 1,000 crores to 60,000 crores. I shall also not speak on how essential expenditure to be made by the government of India have been cut. I shall confine myself to the revenue proposals of the government. But may I point out, it seems that the Finance Ministry has been boycotted by its own ministers. The Finance Minister is not here. There are two Ministers of State, Sri Prakash Shukla and Pon Radhakrishnan. I don't see any of them. And the Ministers of State have revolted against the Finance Minister for not allowing them to speak. This is not a very healthy sign for the democracy. I listened to Mr. Nishikant Dubey from the ruling party. Now he said that Mr. Venugopal had not spoken on the revenue proposals in the finance bill. It is true that Mr. Venugopal mainly concentrated on exposing the corruption on the Rafale deal. I spoke on the Rafale deal yesterday also, and I think that the government has much to answer, especially after it has been revealed that in the agreement the clause against corruption was eliminated, and as a result of which the intergovernmental agreement is defective. I shall not speak on the Rafale deal. I wanted Mr. Nishikant Dubey to speak on the revenue aspects of the bill, but instead he brought down the level of the debate in Parliament, to whom he talked with Mr. Supriya Shule in the Central Hall and Bhatrihari Mohdab. If we reduce our discussion in the Parliament to who you talk to about what in the Central Hall, it lowers the dignity of Parliament. I hope, sir, you will advise this young member to really rise. He is a graduate of the Faculty of Management Studies. He used to work as a director in SR and is now trying to become a face of the BJP. This is not the way this is done. He must understand that the parliamentary debates should be discussed with a certain amount of gravity. So just before I spoke, there is a question on the black money, and as the finance minister informed us that there are 3 different reports on black money and quantum of black money. Black money is related to revenue because black money is generated by those who refuse to pay taxes, who do not pay taxes, who evade taxes or even plan taxes, as a result of which unaccounted money is generated. But the finance ministry sent a report to the chairman, but we as members of the finance committee were not allowed to see the reports because the finance ministry and the parliamentary affairs ministry, they had strictly said that this is for the eyes of the chairman only. We demand from the ministry that all the report of the committees by National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, about National Council of Applied Economic Research, all these reports come out because this government has been playing truant to the people of the country on black money. The Prime Minister's first promise to the people of the country was that he would bring back all the black money that is held abroad. It is 5 years, he has not brought back any black money, let alone deposit 15 lakhs in the accounts of all Indian citizens. He has not done that. Then he went for the surgical strike, the cruel surgical strike called demonetization, cancelling all 1,000 rupee and 500 rupee notes in one fell swoop. But when 2 years later, Reserve Bank announced the figures of money deposited in banks, it was found that the same amount of money, roughly 15 lakh some odd crores, which were cancelled, has been deposited in the banks, which meant that the whole exercise, which caused so much pain, 150 people died in bank queues after demonetization, lakhs of people were thrown out of employment, small businesses closed down because of demonetization. We had recovered no black money at all. This government is a government of Jumla. They just believe in sloganeering, and they are not capable of fulfilling their promises to the nation. That is why I say that there is nothing wrong in the finance bill, because the finance bill is brought under Rule 218 of the Rules of Procedure. It presents the financial proposals of the government. Now this is a lame duck government almost. In 1 month it will become fully lame duck. So it will last for 2 months into the next financial year. So it has no right to really bring new tax proposals. As a result of which, the finance minister has not increased any tax rates, which is understandable. He does not have the moral, constitutional, financial authority to impose new rates of tax. But he has tried to offer SOPs to certain sections of the population, especially the aggrieved sections of the population, namely the salaried middle class. And he has raised the income tax exemption limit to 5 lakhs, which I have no reason to dispute. But the point is that if he had to offer SOPs, he should have waited for the next government to offer SOPs and not give it in a hurry in order to shop for votes. He has done these shops to do shopping. Shopping is for votes, for which he did not have the constitutional, moral, financial authority. Now, let me study some of his proposals, sir. What are the amendments that he suggests? One is 16.1a, standard deduction has been raised from 40,000 to 50,000. Next is amendment to section 23(4), where it says notional income of 2 self-occupied property will now be taken to be nil. So now if people have 2 houses, the notional income of 2 self-occupied houses will be 0, and so they will be exempt. And he said, I have proposed, he had said, that considering the difficulty of the middle class having to maintain families at 2 locations on account of their job, children's education, etc., I am proposing to exempt levy of income tax on notional rent on a second self-occupied house. I do not take any exception to that also. Then there is amendment in section 23(5). This is of a technical nature regarding property. Then there is amendment to section 24, which says interest on capital borrowed for acquisition of 2 self-occupied house properties shall now, instead of 1 earlier, shall now be admissible as deduction subject to the existing overall ceiling of 2 lakh per annum. Then he amends section 54(1)(2). He inserts a new proviso again regarding presently an assessee being an individual or Hindu undivided family is entitled to claim deduction of as regards long-term capital gains arising out of transfer of residential house property. Provided this is for 1 residential house property, please give me some time. I am the only one speaking on the bill so far, so please allow me. So the overall, now 2 residential properties we will get exemption provided the overall long-term capital gains do not exceed rupees 2 crores. Similarly, sir, TDS on income, this is section 194A, TDS on income paid credited in the nature of interest from banks, deposit with post offices up to 40,000 is not deductible. So these are some stops to the middle class. They are not major concessions. There is some concession. Now this finance bill also talks about the stamp tax. Nowadays, previously, if you exchange shares, you have to pay stamp tax, stamp duty individual. Now the stamp duty will have to be paid by the stock exchange or by the depositors. And the other thing is that you have to, the PMLA allowed to attach properties for 90 days earlier. Now the PMLA is allowed to attach properties for 365 days. Sir, I last want to end that this government is the government of tax terrorism. And PMLA and the enforcement department is Mr. Modi's main hand. Those opponents, he does not dare to face politically. He is unleashing the dogs of war, that of the enforcement department on them. Today I read that Chidambaram has been called to enforcement department, tomorrow Robert Vadra, every day this. There has been so many governments since independence. I have never seen a government which has used the CBI and the enforcement department as wantonly as anybody. Now, as Mr. Moili said yesterday, if there was a Lokpal, 5 years this government has not set up a Lokpal. If there was a Lokpal, Mr. Modi would be the first accused in the Lokpal on the issue of purchase of 36 Rafale aircraft for the price of 59,000 crores. With that I say that this finance bill has no controversial issues. I do not oppose the bill normally. Amendments are not put to a finance bill because the government has to get revenue. So they have brought their finance bill. I do not object to that, but this government has lost all moral authority. It is on its last leg, hanging by a slender thread. The people of the country will soon decide the fate of this government.